Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylist podcast, where we talk all about interiors with interviews with interior stylists, writers and the big names in the interiors industry, from brands and PRs to artists and designers. I also catch up with industry experts in the know and ask them to share all their knowledge and advice. There's so much to talk about. I'm your host, Emma Morton-Turner, an interior stylist and writer with a ton of experience. I set up InsideStylist.com so I could share all that interiors love with you. So don't forget to head on over to the website to check out not only the show notes from today's episode, but for links to interior stylists, writers and assistants' profiles and a ton of inspiration. But for now, enjoy the show. Today's guest is a painter, writer and the inventor of chalk paint, and has written over 26 books on decorative paint techniques and interior design. She trained as a fine artist and worked in decorative art, creating murals from her own homemade paint. Unable to find a paint that she specifically required, she teamed up with a Belgian factory to produce her own chalk paint, which has become a global phenomenon. I'm honoured to share that today's guest is the fabulous Annie Sloan. Thank you so much for being here. I am really excited. I have had to literally tell myself not to fangirl all over you because I'm a huge fan. So before I even start asking you questions, I thought I would deal with the elephant in the room of me being a very big fan. And like we were saying before we started recording, I kind of feel like I know you. I've been chatting to you for absolutely ages. But I think as much as I love who you are and I love your personality and you're so vibrant and charismatic, and I've watched your Insta lives throughout all the lockdowns and I've been so inspired by the people that you're interviewing, and I really feel like I thought I kind of knew you from talking to you on Instagram already, but that took it to another level. And as much as I love that, the reason I think I am such a fan is because what your paint has done for me. And I'm going to not cry, but I think there are certain things that I need to be happy. And if I don't do them, there's three things. If I don't do them, I start feeling withdrawal symptoms. One is baking, which has turned to cooking in lockdown. One is sewing, and one is painting furniture. Because the transformation of doing those things, from cooking from scratch and sewing something from a piece of fabric into a garment or a cushion or a blanket or whatever, gives you so much joy. But the creativity of painting and kind of expressing yourself, and your paint does that in a way that no other paint has done it. And I'm talking personally from me, but I know other people feel the same. I've had to, because I know Wi-Fi connection is terrible, I was tempted to take you on an Annie Sloan tour of my house. You're in every room, and to the point where I painted my front door about 18 months ago with a like a satin wood paint. And it was a teal colour and I just didn't like it, and I didn't do a second coat because I really wasn't getting on with it. And I thought, I'm going to wait till my husband goes away for the night, I'm going to paint it in Aubusson blue, much darker, and it's that paint is flat and I could add texture and I can add a little bit of, I can sand a bit here and sand a bit there, and now when I look at it, it literally makes my heart sing. And that is what your paint has done for me and so many other people. So I want to say thank you for creating this amazing thing that can bring so much joy, when at the end of the day it's paint, and you can get paint from all sorts of different places, but yours is brilliant. I'm going to let you talk now.
Well, I don't know what to say after that. That's so lovely of you. Thank you very much. And I'm going to say my fangirl as well, because I've loved, you're one of the people that seems very direct and out there and connected. And I won't go on too much, but I think those are the sort of things that I love, because, yeah, you've got to be real. And that's the great thing about, especially now with lockdown. Oh, my goodness. It's quite tough, isn't it? Especially this second one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a lot harder, and I think that's why people have been looking for creative outlets. So I've become obsessed with Facebook Marketplace, and I've found so much furniture.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and also people are doing massive clear outs, and you're walking the dog, and then all of a sudden there's a table, and you're like, ooh, that could be pink. So
that is why, because people are having clear outs. Isn't that interesting? I didn't think of that. That's why it is. There's so much around at the moment. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm really pleased that you said all those things, because those were the things that I wanted. I was a painter to start with, and that's why I knew about paint, and a lot of paint companies come from a different place. And so when I started, all you could get were paints which were sort of for the painter and decorator or artists, and you didn't get anything in between. And when I was looking for something in between, so it wasn't the perfect finish that you required to do priming and sanding and blah blah blah, and then you got this completely flat, anonymous and no feeling. And then I thought, but you don't want art paints because that's all complicated and small tubes and all the rest of it. And so what I was after was this other thing that allowed you to do the things that I wanted to do, because you couldn't do them at all with, you can't do them with sort of satin wood paint or whatever. It does one job and only one job. And I wanted my paint to do lots of jobs. And so, and I always believed that people were creative. I think everybody, especially if you're a homemaker, you want to do things like you want to cook, and I know not everybody wants to cook, but and sewing. I don't really sew much, but I do love fabrics, but I don't sew that much. But those are the things that particularly women, but not only women, they want to create and make their home beautiful in some way or another. And I think that's a strong desire in so many people, and so it makes that's what I was trying to find for people, so that it wasn't just I have to get the painter and decorators in to paint something. So yeah, that was the whole aim. So thank you.
Not at all. So I've done quite a lot of research. I try very hard to ask questions that will share what it is you do to anyone who's coming to you new. Now, basically, anyone who's within Inside Stylist or follows me does know who you are, but they might not know the background. So you studied art. You created your own paint for as far as I understand, you wanted to create this special paint, and you did it yourself. How did you do that very first paint? Did you understand how paints work, or?
Yeah, I mean, I did sort of start in the kitchen. So I was looking and finding out about paint. I was really interested in what really made me wonder was there was a time when you couldn't get paint. You couldn't go down to the shop and get your paint. I mean, in fact, painter and decorators, even until the beginning of the 19th century, 20th century rather, were still making their own paints. They would have to, they would mix the pigments and all the rest of it. And it probably wasn't until the 1920s that you could go out and buy a tin of paint. And even then, it was always in the hands of the professionals, unless you're an artist. And then I began to think, well, what happened in the early 19th century? Or what about in the countryside? Or what about when you lived in, I don't know, in the middle of Ireland or France or anywhere? So what did you do? And I began to find out through Sweden, particularly, and through America, that in Sweden there would be itinerant painters, and they would go round and they would make their own paints, and they would make their paints out of the earths around, generally, so red earths and yellow earths, white chalks and various other things, and they would make their own paint out of things like with egg and glue, bone glue, and milk. So you can, and I started to sort of experimenting, and you can make a paint if you have red earth. So if you live in an area where you've got very red earth, like in Cornwall or Devon, you can take that earth, probably sort of sift it to get all the sort of lumpy bits out, and then mix it with yogurt, and you would have a red to pink paint. Wow. And that's how it started. And there's yellow earths and there's all sorts of other things. So that's how it all started. And so I started experimenting with that, and I had great fun. I mean, in my old house, probably where I lived when I did that, there's probably still some walls with daubs on it. And then I started sort of researching it, and I quite liked doing all that sort of research and looking into and seeing what people made. And then I wrote a book about it, called Paint Alchemy. And so I was really thinking a lot about this. And then I met somebody who said, I was talking about the paint, and he said, I was in Holland at the time, and he said, I know a paint factory in Belgium. Would you like to go there with me? And that's how it all started. And it's sort of serendipity. They were a company that were very keen on family values, and they all worked together. And I don't think they took me that seriously at first. But anyway, so the next thing was a laboratory. So I was there in my laboratory, in their laboratory, using pigments and fiddling about. And so it all started.
So when you were kind of creating this, so once you got to the ingredients, as it were, you had a really good idea of what you wanted the paint to be used for, and it would stand out. What was your kind of remit? And how many colours were in your first collection?
Oh, 12. That was just 12.
Collection.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, I suppose it was. I don't know. Anyway, there were 12 colours that I was keen to have. And that probably comes from going to art school, because when you first go to art school, there are 12 colours. I was very keen that people would be able to mix things. And there would be 12 colours that you needed to have, 8 to 12, that you needed to make things, to paint things, you know, to be able to make a picture. So you could mix from there. So I think that was probably where it came from. I don't know. And so what I wanted was it to be easy for people. I didn't want there to be too many rules. I wanted not to have any black in my paint, so it didn't have any black. It was all made from sort of first principles of painting. You know, artists don't tend to use black. They tend to use, you know, you'd use a brown and a red, a brown and a blue together to make a sort of deep blue.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, so all of that stuff. So I was interested in all of that. And I also very keen that it was, that there wouldn't be, that you could have, it wouldn't be one thing you could do. You could use lots, you could do lots of different effects. You could have washes, and you could have thin and thick and textured and all of that. That seemed very, very important to me. And I also wanted to get rid of all this whole idea of, you know, having to rub down and sand and all the rest of it, and prime, because, you know, I used to find that for furniture particularly, you know, I mean, it was just, I'm so bored by then.
Yeah.
Exhausted.
Results.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I'd rather spend the time working on design rather than sanding down.
Yeah. So your paint, basically, for anyone who doesn't know, you can literally just make sure there's no dust on the piece of furniture, and then you can just go and paint straight away. And there's lots of different. When I first got introduced to you, it was you only did the paint, and then there's clear waxes. Now there's dark waxes, and there's lacquer, and there's gilding. So you've kind of added to the collection to make it really, really versatile.
Yeah.
So once you were up and running, you made the decision to sell just through independents. Why was that?
Well, I had a shop at that point. Later on, I just felt that, you know, I spent many years going into painter and decorator's shop to be told, was treated quite badly quite often by men who just said, oh, you know, I don't know, they weren't very helpful, basically. Yeah. And I also felt that first of all, actually, I did try to sell my paint in painter and decorator shops, and my paint would be put on the bottom shelf, ignored, because it said that there was no priming necessary. And they just were like, no, that's, sorry, lady. Sorry, darling. Not really.
Oh!
I know. So God, it just makes you. Yeah. Anyway, so that didn't work. We did try it in artist shops as well, and again, it wasn't really working because people were like, furniture painting was still very new then. It was not sort of accepted, so that was no good. There were very few actually sort of interior design shops, because most of interior designs then, we're talking about 1990, they tended to be quite grand, you know, so it would be sort of the Colfax and Fowler, beautiful shops, lovely, and there was always one in every town. Big towns, so it'd be very smart, but you know, you didn't feel, I always thought, oh gosh, I've got paint on my shoes, you know, can't go in there. And so they were not the places, and also they're not very practical, they're much more about getting the look. So it was hard to start with, looking for independent shops. And then I thought, people kept saying, can I have a franchise with you? Can we do a franchise? And I'm like, well, that's an interesting idea. But no, because franchises don't work, because the people who want to use the paint are not those people that cookie cutter. You know, they don't want to be the same shape as everybody else. They're individual. So that was the whole idea. We started with these independent shops. And in 1990, that was really quite a new idea. Well, it actually developed a little bit later because we started with the other shops. And then, yeah, by about 1995, we were trying to find lots of independent shops. And some of those people are still my stockists.
Wow. And you've been going 30 years now.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's very, very good. Yeah.
And I think the benefit of having those independents, like there's round my way, nearest to me, I'm in Bromley in Kent. So the nearest to me is in Dulwich. So it's like a destination you go to buy your paint. Yeah. And they're quite often really nice, like boutique-y sort of shops that do a little bit of cool fashion and a little bit of interiors, but the things you haven't seen anywhere else.
Yes.
Or they're shops that sell beautiful pieces of furniture, and then you can go and do workshops with them. And I think that's where I got introduced to you. I think I'd heard of you, and then I was at Woman and Home at the time, and I got asked to go, if I'd like to go on one of these workshops in Otford, which is kind of part of Kent. And it was like, I just so excited. And I've still got, what we did was we did 3 different techniques. There was probably about 10 of us around this big table in the middle of the shop, and all you're doing is looking at the paints, but going, I really like that chair.
Yeah.
We're given the big plank of like floorboard, and you do a bit of a technique to get to the feel of the paints and the brushes, because the brushes are round and they're kind of pointed. I have to remember people are listening, not watching. And then you get a feel for that, and then you turn it over and they show you how to do different techniques and stuff. Well, I've still got that piece of board in my garden somewhere.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, you can't get rid of things. You're like, I'll just put that over there and I'll be a little shelf somewhere. Yeah. But it was a really good experience, and it was so much fun, but your mind just whirs with, I need to paint every piece of furniture in my home now. And you can.
It's I know, it's such a buzz. I do. I know exactly what that feeling is like. I don't now teach the people. I mean, I used to do it, and I used to always get a buzz because you could feel that moment in the room when people would go, oh God, oh, I've just thought of something. And so everyone starts getting excited.
But you've really been championing independence during lockdown with your, I've written it down, Adopt a Business.
Yeah, we Adopt a Shop. In fact, we've done several things. We've done one about just support local. Another one which is called Adopt a Shop, which wasn't our idea. It was actually a man in Ireland I think he's a historian, and he just said, oh my goodness, I am so nervous that some of the shops around here will die in this lockdown, and I'm going to try to support them. And his idea was so simple. Every 2 weeks, you must visit one of those shops. And whether you buy a biscuit or a coffee or a whole cupboard full of whatever, I don't know, doesn't matter. You've got to support them. And that's also chimes in with somebody else who we've talked with, is called Just a Card. And she does a thing which says, she went into a shop and they said, we're closing. And she said, if everybody had come in and just bought a card, we would still be open. And so their idea is Just a Card, same as Adopt a Shop, because, if you just buy one thing every 2 weeks, that would keep them going. I know it sounds silly, but enough people walk into a shop. I know what it's like. I've had my own shop. People walk in and go, oh, isn't this gorgeous? Oh, I'm so inspired. Bye. And you think you're probably going to go down the road and buy something, and in the supermarket or whatever. So why don't you just do it here and buy, because people love them, but we're not museums. Shops are not museums. They are actually businesses, and we're required to keep going. And, rents and rates and all the rest of it are huge these days. So, that's the whole idea, to really support local shops in any way that can be done. And Holly Tucker is someone else who I'm really got involved with as well. So, yes, we're doing the same thing. And, we've got something like 1,700 stockists worldwide. And they're all independent, and they're all, some of them, that some of them have been on lockdown for so long now, and I just wonder what's going to happen to them, really. Some have gone online, some of them can't quite get there, and everybody at different levels, but we're trying as hard as we can.
It's such a good idea. The adopter shop's such a good idea, because it's something that you might not have thought of. You might just walk past a Starbucks, but actually if you go to that independent who's got a table at their door because you can't come in, but they can still give you a takeaway, that will, the Starbucks will survive, the little independents won't. So it's just reminding people to
and also, talking about a coffee shop, there's a coffee shop around here that I go to, that I support, and he's got a beautiful banana cake and flapjacks, and he's homemade, and he's got a French chef doing them, just gorgeous, really, really wonderful. Well, why don't I go there instead of going up to Starbucks? Or not that I would ever go to Starbucks myself, but anyway. But I just want to, I think it's just so important, and it's also by, helping local people, and community is so important, So I've chosen 3 shops near me that I go to, but in fact, there's more. But so I've chosen a clothes shop, which is also a gift shop, and I've all sorts of things there. She's also going to become one of my stockists, which is very exciting. Yeah.
Very cool.
And I go to a fantastic bread shop, which make, I think, the best bread in the world and the best marmalade in the world. And so I go to there. That's Hamlin's, and so Indigo, Hamlin's, and then Pickle and Lime, a local veggie shop. And they're buying locally, you see, all of them are buying locally. And so that's what I feel is so, so important, and independence. And so it's, imagination and community and so many things.
Yeah, we created a WhatsApp group. I live on like a horseshoe road, and someone created a WhatsApp group just for our road to make sure everyone was okay, if anyone was in quarantine, do you need toilet rolls or whatever. And it's become a really, really supportive little network. And if it's someone's birthday, you just get bing, 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 happy birthday, happy birthday. Oh. What they've started doing is going, the Oak pub around the corner, who hasn't been able to open the whole time, he started to do takeaway. Let's all go and buy our takeaways this weekend. And the coffee shop and the Indian, and everyone is starting to share locally who is still open. Had a great curry last night. Make sure you go to Asana or whatever it was called. And it's a similar sort of thing. You're like, I didn't even know they were open. So it's kind of a smaller version of spreading the love. But it does.
Yes, that sent me shivers, actually, put shivers down, because I find it so exciting. I really do.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to live in a world where we all shop at Amazon and never see each other, and don't go to the local. I mean, I love going to my local shop, and they say, hello, Annie, and, and I see someone else in there and go, hi, you, how the children, all of that stuff. It's so vital for our mental health. I mean, otherwise we're all going to sit here, feeling sorry for ourselves.
When we walk the dog at night, we walk past the Oak pub, and he's got a dog as well, you see. So all dog owners know each other. And we walk past him, we're like, giving him a little wave, right? And it is. And I was talking to someone else. We're going off tangent, but I'll just say this quickly. We went on a really long dog walk on a Sunday, and I walked to my sister's a couple of days earlier, and everyone with the dog stopped, not just to say hello, to say a few words. And it was like we were craving just a conversation, I'm not talking to someone in my house. And it was just such a lovely thing. Like, I had headphones on, and I pulled them out and went, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. And he went, no, don't worry. I was like, no, let's chat. We both would have gone home feeling just a little bit lighter, because we'd had a connection. And it's so important. But you're absolutely
so important. Yeah. And this is happening all over the world. So I'm in contact with my stockists in Australia, my stockists in America, in Canada, in France, in Germany, and everybody is under the same thing at the moment. It is quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
And it's sort of bringing people together in some ways. But anyway, we digress.
Right, so I wanted to talk about your artist in residence. I was on the phone to my sister this morning. I was saying, do not call after 1 o'clock, okay? And I told her who I was interviewing, and she said, you have to show her my drinks cabinet. And I was thinking, listen, get in line. I've got 100. But she was inspired by one of your artists in residence. So she bought this drinks cabinet that opens up. It's got mirrors and lights inside it, and she taped it up to create lines and stuff. And do you want to share what your artist in residence is?
Okay, so this was we started this whole idea about when was it? Probably 2015, something like that. And I was aware that there was all these people who, looking on Facebook, people were painting amazing things. And sometimes the stockists didn't have time to do it because they were selling in their shops and working out and doing all of that sort of stuff, working everything out. But there were all these people doing these wonderful things. And I thought, I've got to showcase these people. And so I thought about what we could call it. So Amy's my now marketing person, but she used to work with me, and she also did fine art at university. So we were very aware of this type thing called artist in residence. And so we've done a painter in residence because they're not artists. I mean, I don't see furniture painters as artists. I know lots of people do, but I think they're just great. They are great painters. And so we devised this idea, and the idea we'd have one every 3 months. And I tried to get them from all over the world. And so our first ones were, gosh, I can't remember now. I think of one from an English guy who lived in France, an Australian woman who turned out to be English as well. And can't remember. Anyway, so we had all these. And they were just people that we'd found online. And we'd asked people, would you like to paint 5 pieces of furniture, I think it was. And we'll give you all the paint. And just do what you would like to paint. Sometimes it's mainly work, but occasionally people try too hard. So we see all their gorgeous work and we say, oh, I love your work. And they go, oh, I'm going to be a painter in residence. I'm going to work really, really hard now. And then they work so hard and they try so hard and it's a failure. And really, I think, when people need to just do what they do.
From the heart.
And it comes from the heart and they weren't trying too hard. And that's when it works brilliantly. So I've only had a couple of people that were like, no, look, let's start again. So it's been a huge success. I think it's been amazing. So we've got so many great people. As we were talking, I was thinking of, I think Jeannie Simpson in New Zealand has been a huge success. She's a sort of shepherdess, as it were, the wife of a sheep farmer, and she'd been to art school, and she was painting this stuff in the middle of in the New Zealand countryside. Amazing stuff, very tentative, very nervous, but she's turned out to be one of our just most flowered. Chloe Kempstra is Maisie's House, who we just love. She's just so excited and willing and marvelous. Jonathan Mark Mendes, he was all over the place. He was painting flowers this minute, something this, and then we've sort of helped him sort of focus, and I think his work has been really very successful and amazing. Absolutely wonderful. Ildiko in Canada, she's Hungarian originally, and she's just got her own style and just wonderful. We just spotted her and went, oh my god, go. And we love her work. We love all these people's work. I mean, I've probably forgotten someone really, really important that I should have said. Can't remember them.
You've got a lot, haven't you? Like, there's I was just looking, because on the website where you look at the artists, you can, or the painters, you can see like the recent few, and then there's the archives, and it just goes on and on and on. I was Ildiko, who did the colours that go from blue to pink to wood. Oh, that one, I just absolutely love that.
I know.
That's what I want to be able to do. That is so incredible.
It's really inspiring, that. And she's now doing.
Sorry, they're also different. So whatever you are looking for, you're going to find something, and it's a very good place to go for inspiration on what you can do with your furniture. And you could be like one that does very abstract lines, or someone who does stenciling, and someone who does like the taping it up to create like a very Art Deco style, but leaving the wood showing at the top, and all paint. There's so many different ways that people have interpreted their style, and it's a really good resource. But when I didn't realize, I knew you'd been going about 5 years. I didn't realize it changed that quickly. So when I was looking like to research for today, it was like, wow, it just goes on and on and on.
Such a lot. I know. They're just been they've really been fantastic. Very inspiring. I mean, I'm inspired by them, and that's what I hope other people will be as well. And then now, of course, Instagram is you can see them all. So someone like Ildiko now is doing quite folky things because she's got this Hungarian background, and she didn't know she could paint. And the work she's doing is just so gorgeous, really lovely. So yeah. So that's. I hope that's answered people. If we don't have people do apply, but we don't do it that way because we'd be overwhelmed, and so we actually don't accept any applications. You have to be posting on Instagram or wherever, and your photographs have to be really good, because there are some people who paint beautifully but they can't take a photograph, and it's really frustrating for us, because we did have a few people that we really like. No, okay, let's try that one again, and they just didn't get it. So you've got to be everything these days, don't you?
Yeah. So I haven't really talked about what Inside Stylist is with you, but basically it's a membership website, and I do workshops and things with the members. And tomorrow, it's literally what you're saying. As a stylist, I've been styling for 20 years. I've never had to take a picture professionally and make it look how I want it to look. And I have no idea how to do it. I just push buttons and edit and try and make it look good. So tomorrow we've got one of the members who's she's kind of a stylist. She has also trained in photography. So she's doing a workshop literally so we can take better pictures for sharing on portfolios, sharing on Instagram, promoting ourselves, because it's the lighting. And I know how to make a shot look good style, and I know how to make the reflector reflect the light in the shot. I don't know how to get all the buttons and dials doing what they need to be doing. So but yeah, it's a shame. People need to go off and do a photography course so that they
do, unfortunately, because I mean, as you say, some people seem to be able to do it naturally, but most people just can't. I wouldn't be able to do it if I hadn't been doing books for years and years and working with a photographer for years and years. So I've got a little bit of knowledge, but bit of training doesn't do anybody any harm.
No, I do regret having 20 years of experience and not having gone to the photographer. So what do I do if I want to do this? If I'd have just learned something every shoot, I'd be a photographer as well now. No interest. There are so many things I'm going to talk about. I wanted to talk about the colorist. I've actually got a couple of copies with me. So anyone listening who can't see, the colorist is I'm going to call it a bookazine. Do you call it a bookazine?
Yeah. It is a bookazine.
It's a bookazine, so you do not throw it away, you keep it. And what issue are you on now? Is it?
Oh gosh, is it 6? I can't remember, because we've just done one, but we're working on the next one, which will come out in a couple of a month or so. And it's probably about issue 6 coming out. Issue 5 done. It's a bookazine because it's like a book and there are no adverts, but it's like a magazine and there's lots of things in it. So that's the whole idea. And it's a library. That's what I really love about it, is that each edition, you look down the spine and you see what the color is. So there'll be a blue one, a red one, yellow one, and a white one, and different colors. And so that's the whole concept of it. It's about color. It's not just about bright color. It's about mellow color and pastels and deeps and all of that, everything, because it's a whole gamut.
Yeah, and you feature some of the residents, and you feature just lots of different people, lots of different styles. I know Lucy Tiffany was in there near the beginning. Actually, I think I've just flicked through number 3, I think.
Yeah.
I messaged Lucy yesterday and I was thinking, I must reply. But it's like lots of different styles and all of that. So there's interviews with people, and it's just hearing what they how they interpret their styles and what they do for a living and all of that sort of things. And it's really inspiring. It's a really lovely read, and those bookazines are really good because you just don't want to throw them away. They're not a magazine.
Well, the idea is that we try to make it timeless as well. So we don't do anything. We sort of do the thing which is trending, but we don't do anything which is too immediate,
Yeah.
So
they make really good props for shoots.
All that color. Yeah, nice. Oh, thank you. I'm glad about that. That's the reason I wrote them.
Well, absolutely. That's why it's the only reason I buy them. I really shouldn't say that, should I? saw recently about your new workshop. Right, I'm going to get the name of this right. The Big Paint Virtual Workshop.
Yes.
This is a really good idea. So this podcast was going to come out in February, and when I saw that, I was like, oh no, let's get it out before the workshop. Do you want to share what that's all about?
Oh, that's fantastic of you. Thank you very much. So the idea is that we've got all these stockists all over the place, and they can buy the workshop, which is an online workshop, and it's but it's a tray which you can stencil. It's got all the paints in it, and you can go to one of the stockists who are doing it. They'll be advertising it, and you can do your workshop. So you can do your workshop at home with your mum and your dad and your brothers and your sisters and your cousins and your aunties, whoever is in your bubble, and the kids. And you can do it with your stockist, who could be a local stockist, or if your local stockist isn't doing it, it could be someone else who's nearby. And it will be on a Zoom call like this, probably. There's various people doing different ones. And you can be all sitting at home round your table, all painting, all with your own little kit. And yeah, it's been so exciting. So people are booking them now, and they will be sent their kit. So if you go online and have a look, there's a whole banner on a website, and you can find out about it there. Yeah. So yes, it's very, very exciting. I love the idea that it's a global event over 1 week in February.
Yeah, so it's the 1st to the 7th.
1st to the 7th of February, yes. In fact, where if you have any people in Australia, it'll be slightly later because the shipment was delayed because of COVID.
Yeah.
So
everything's delayed because of COVID.
Everything's delayed because of COVID.
So I've got a colour card in front of me.
Yeah.
It's missing a new colour. Now, I was going to say a little dicky bird told me a new colour was coming out, but you announced it on Instagram today. Woo! Share it. So do you want to share what the new...
I will. Yes, it's very, very exciting. It'll be in the shops tomorrow, and it's a shocking pink.
Really is.
Really is shocking.
Fabulous.
I think that this is the colour that everybody really, really wants at the moment. I had a feeling it would be. I wasn't sure, and I didn't realise how appropriate it would be for now. It's just what everybody wants, you know. We're all a bit,
yeah,
and it's just full of joy. It's full of colour. It's full of happiness. It's just what we want. Yeah. And it's got a great story behind it as well. Can I tell you about it?
Absolutely. So it's called Capri.
It's called Capri Pink, and Capri is a place in Italy, and it was Capri shorts, you know, bit 50s, you know, you'd have to be having Capri pants and a pink Cadillac. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
It's a bit Hollywood. The colours comes from this whole sort of Hollywood Regency thing, but it's also India.
Yeah.
And sort of slightly hippie. So it's got these sort of lovely connotations. And also you can make it pale and make it quite a sort of pastel colour. Mm. So for me, it's got everything that you want for a colour. So the great thing is, so the first thing is Schiaparelli. Now, I don't know if you know who Schiaparelli, Elsa Schiaparelli was a designer in the 30s, 40s and 50s. She was absolutely outrageous and amazing. I can't believe she's not more famous. Schiaparelli gave the name Shocking Pink to the colour. She's an untrained designer, clothes designer. She worked with lots of artists as well, and like Dali and Picasso and all sorts of Salvador Dali and Picasso, lots of other people as well. And she did, at the same time as introducing the world to Shocking Pink, she also did a perfume called Shocking Pink, which, you know, the John Galliano's shaped...
Yeah, Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Yeah, Gaultier, yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, wrong one. That shaped, wasted,
Dream.
Well, yes, but actually, who did it first was Schiaparelli. And she based the figure on Mae West. So it's quite a full figure. It's really lovely, really sort of yummy. And Shocking Pink came then. So it's perfume and the colour. And she did outrageous things like a dress with a lobster on it, a big picture of a lobster. She did a shoe, but she didn't put it on her foot. She put it on her head. So, but it's it's a bit like those. Oh, what's the name of the amazing shoes?
The irregular choice shoes with the
no, with the pink. No, with the pink inside or the pink at the bottom. The
you
bright.
mean Louboutin?
Yeah, what?
Christian Louboutin.
Yes, Louboutin. So that, but it's on the head. It looks like a hat, and then you went, oh, hang on, oh, it's a shoe. So she did amazing things like that. She was outrageous and extraordinary, but also totally accepted. But she did do work for people as she lived in Paris, but she did also do work for Hollywood. And so her work is just inspiring and shocking. And I just think sort of we need that at the moment. A little bit of woof to inspire us.
Has she been in the back of your mind? And when you were thinking of the new colour, you're like, this is the mood. This is what we need to encapsulate the feeling of this Schiaparelli. And that's where the shocking pink came from. Literally the mood first and then the colour.
That was all there to begin with. And then this is a year, because these things take a long time to develop. I went to India for the first time in January last year. So this time last year I was in India, not quite, I was just about to go. And of course, India is full of orange and pink and turquoise and all the rest of it. So I knew then that this was absolutely right. Well, I think we'd already started on it. Then it got a little bit delayed. I would have come earlier, actually, but because of COVID, it got delayed. And now I've been able to bring it out now. And it's just actually, in the hands of the gods, it all worked out. And this is the time we need it. And I just loved it that we, it's got this sort of hippie thing as well because of India and all of that. Because, I'm a child of that sort of hippie era. And those sort of, that India stuff was all really, really important. So, yeah. So that's the story of Capri Pink.
Very cool. I remember when you were in India because I think I was talking to you daily. I get up really early, and I think it was when it was really early here, it was late there, and I was just chatting.
Oh, yeah.
You went to such incredible places. Actually, I've seen that in The Colorist as well. Some of the images of the woodwork and the colours in it, and it's ancient, and it's just like a riot of colours.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I've never wanted to go as badly as when I saw where you were. It was like every day there was somewhere different, and it was like so inspiring. It's like I was sure you would be getting inspiration because you've travelled quite a bit, haven't you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I was actually very nervous to go to India because I was scared that I would see too much poverty, but actually it wasn't like that at all. I mean, maybe years and years ago there was more, and I'm not saying that everybody's rich. But it was just not how I imagined it would be. I thought it was wonderful. I really, really found it very inspiring. I can't wait to go back. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to at all. And I'm worried about what's happening there in the country as well, because it's probably quite dire.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
So I always feel when I ask people what their favourite product is, that it's like choosing their favourite child. But do you have a favourite at the moment?
I suppose it's always what you're working on at the moment. And so I'm very inspired by, I'm really getting into the pink. Mm-hmm. But of course, as I told you, I was working on this pink a year ago, more than a year ago. And so I'm working on things now that I can't tell you about.
No, of course. I was talking to someone about the Dulux colour of the year that's already been decided for September. And of course, you're all sworn to secrecy and you can't say anything. But obviously, it's all affecting what's happening now, is what, like you're saying, pink is really of the moment. And we're so lucky that you've done that really bright colour. Yeah, I can just imagine you must be working on your next colour now to get it out. Yes, later on. So
yeah, it's you're always doing that, and if you think people go, but how do you know what's going to be? Well, I always used to wonder that, but in fact, because you're working so closely with it, you really have a feeling of what how that's how I see the world through color, because that's how I have trained myself, I suppose, for years and years to think about color all the time. And, you see the influences that's starting to come through, you see, I don't know, it could be in fashion, because fashion often is a precursor to interiors. So you look at that and just look at generally how people feel. And I suppose it's, how we, like, it's the same with everything. That, I mean, a little while ago, everybody was eating avocados, and suddenly avocados are not so popular. And why is that? We just become sated with something, and you need something new. And so you just get very sensitive to that.
Yeah.
So anyway, basically, I can't tell you.
No. I'm glad you haven't turned the question on me, because I don't think I could answer either. Exactly. I do have a favourite. I think that the same way that you have like a colour trend, you also have trends in textures and effects and stuff. Are you seeing something new coming through, or what are you seeing coming through at the moment in how people are decorating the furniture and walls and things? Because your paints can be, you've got the walls as well as for the furniture.
Yes, I think there's two things happening at the moment. One is that people are wanting colour, because they know that if you're at home all the time and you're seeing quite subdued colours, lots of neutrals, it is a little bit samey, and you just want something. So I think there's more of a calming look, something quite calm, but then you want your hit of colour. So actually, I was looking at this morning at someone who I'm going to be talking to in my Annie Sloan Talks to, and I was looking and thinking, oh, I'd love to talk with her, because she's got this very calm look, and then she's got 2 bedside tables which are just in colour, just wonderful, and then it's dotted around the room, and it just makes the place alive. And I think I don't think we can all live in these grey rooms, and even myself, I've got quite a lot of colour in my house, but the backdrop tends to be neutral, partly because I was always busy and I just didn't have time to think, oh my God, what am I going to do? So this time, like many, you're at home a lot and you're thinking, what am I going to do? And you look around and think, actually, I want more hits of colour. So it's 2 things, calmness and joy. Calm and joy is what I think, the 2 words, if you're going to bring it down to 2 colours, 2 ideas.
I think you're absolutely right. So my last question, because we've nearly been going an hour, that is just 5 minutes.
Sorry.
All day. I want to ask you what's next, but I do understand you might not be able to share what's next. But what can you share that's next, other than pink? Capri pink.
I think the business has got to a certain size now, and I just see all the areas I need to improve on. And so I'm getting more, I'm trying to sort of get, and also the business is now in a funny position because, with this lockdown and COVID, I don't know what's going to happen to a lot of independent shops. So we're looking how to help them more, what to do, how to do the future. I think more shops, more of the independents will have to be online, and how to make that happen. So that's the sort of thing I'm really focusing on now, because I don't want to lose independence. And there's more and more focus to online shopping, but also on social media. We've always been big on social media, but I think we'll get even better and even bigger. And we've just employed a new person for that. And so we're expanding all of that. We need more work on that. And I feel that's a very exciting area to be in. So it's just sort of, you've just not, with retail, nothing stays the same. And with business, nothing stays the same. You can't, and my business is, I find it a very creative area to be in. When I was young, I thought business was the most, people who did business degrees, I think, what are you doing? I now find it's actually a very exciting area to be in. And marketing too. I always thought, as a sort of good old hippie, I thought marketing was beneath contempt even, And now I just find it thrilling, because you're talking to people, and communication is probably the key to who I am as well. I think someone like you're the same.
I do to talk.
Yeah.
I'm nodding nodding away. I'm nodding away, smiling massively from everything you're saying now. I'm just telling people who are listening, because my husband, he works in builders merchants, and while he was working within they did this management training thing, he got sent off to do a business studies degree. I love talking business with him, because he just says, well, no, as a good manager, you bring your staff on and you lead them on and all that. And I just literally yesterday downloaded a new marketing book. I'll send you the link. It's really, I literally, every time I'm having lunch or walking the dog, I'm like, quick, listen to it again. It's so good. So I have to send you.
Excellent.
It's really good. So I get what you mean. It's like, my sister is an accountant, but she's so creative. It's like, just because you're creative, it doesn't mean you can't be business minded. You have to have now social media and writing and painting and everything. So yeah,
absolutely. I think that is extremely important. And yes, you've got to get away from the idea that, and some of our stockists, our shops, they're like, oh, but I'm just very artistic, I can't do that. And I'm thinking, well, I'm really sorry, but you can't be like that anymore. Gone are those days. You know, we've got to be everything. Yeah. So you and I,
is it? It's never dull. There's
never
always
dull.
something to do, so you never get bored. There's always something to learn or to be doing. So no time for them. Yeah. Annie, it's been an hour. I am so thankful for your time. I've absolutely loved having you all to myself.
Well, you've been a joy to talk with. It's been lovely, really inspiring and wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's been good. Thank you very much indeed. Have a great day, and good luck with Capri. I will shout about it in a second.
Thank you.
Take care, Annie.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Inside Stylist podcast. You can find all the details from today's episode over in the show notes on insidestylist.com. If you enjoyed the show, I'd love it if you would head on over to iTunes and rate and review it. It's the best way to help other people find the show, and I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, bye for now.